Hi, everyone. Welcome to Smart City Institute Japan's webinar series called Global Perspectives on Smart Cities. I'm your host, Tak Nagumo, Executive Director of the Smart City Institute Japan. Right, today we're going to have a discussion about the European satellite navigation system. And before inviting our distinguished speaker today, just a little housekeeping matter. So I would recommend and encourage the viewers to send a message, questions, comments to the speakers through the chat box. And then when you write something into the chat box, please choose all panelists and participants from the pull-down menu. That's the way we share all the writings with all people attending this seminar, all right? So let's invite our distinguished speaker today. And his title today is A New Public Transport Era, Leveraging Galileo. Mr. Josep Laborda, Factual-Consulting from Spain. Hey, Josep, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And I'm excited to hear about the European navigation, satellite navigation system, which is not necessarily well known to the Japanese audience, but it looks like interesting.
It is. My goal today is to educate your audience on the benefits of leveraging Galileo in your daily operations, and particularly in public transport, as you will see in a moment.
All right, that sounds good. So let's get started. It's your show time, Joseph.
Thank you so much. So can you please project my presentation? Yeah, thank you very much. So good afternoon to those of you attending this webinar from Japan. Good morning here in Europe, where I'm based in Barcelona. So again, thank you very much for having me. My name is Josep Laborda, co-founder and CEO of Factual and coordinator of the Ariadne project. The coronavirus, as you well know, is a global crisis that has taught us the hard way the direct impact transport has on the environment. Indeed, one of the very few positive outcomes of the pandemic has been air pollution dramatically going down in cities worldwide as a result of the hard measures taken to combat the coronavirus, such as, for example, reduced traffic during lockdowns. The lesson learned is that mobility can and must be more efficiently managed, so we do not go back to the previous normal, but advance to a greener, more sustainable next normal. As lockdown measures are being slowly lifted, the increasing mobility demand cautiously returns, and so the negative externalities, unfortunately, in some cases of transportation are back too. Concerns on public transport safety, notably, for example, the need to ensure the social distancing, may lead to an increase of private transport means even above previous levels, and this is something that we can by no means afford. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. So Ariadne is a project funded by the EUSPA, namely the European Union Agency for the Space Program, with a mission to raise awareness and educate key stakeholders globally and decision makers on how European space services can play a key role in the modernization of cities and urban transport, opening new possibilities to exploit the potential of the European global navigation satellite system called Galileo, which is freely available at global level, not only in Europe, and which is there to enable a more resilient, more sustainable and efficient public transport system, among many other applications, of course. Next. Next. So Ariadne brings in a very competitive, highly skilled, well-balanced consortium of 5 partners coming from 3 different countries. Factual, which is my company, the coordinator of the project, the UITP, the International Association of Public Transport, so that is a global organization with over 200 members, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, coming from 12 different territories, of course, including Japan, and also a number of members of the Smart City Institute Japan are also members or are related in any way with the UITP. Buildo Labs, an engineering company based in Barcelona, specialized in delivering top-of-the-edge technology and services within the aeronautics and aerospace sectors, with also a very active vertical on ITS, so Intelligent Transport Systems. The UPC, it's the Polytechnical University of Catalonia, one of the most renowned universities in Europe, that in this project bridged the academia world with the industry, particularly by managing the Space for Cities Forum, where the Smart City Institute Japan is also a member. And last but not least, Auxilia, they come from France, and they are expert in analyzing socio-ecologic transitions and sustainable mobility practices. And in the project, Auxilia are mostly responsible for the liaison with SMEs and startups embracing innovation in the public transport domain. Next, please. So now let me briefly present my own company, Factual, where I'm a co-founder. We like to define ourselves as a foresight, innovation, and strategy firm committed to transforming mobility. Something that clearly defines our value proposition as a company is that we are focused on mobility. So we are specialists. We work for clients from all over the globe, from the public and private sector, and provide them with strategic advice, training, help them develop their projects, their ideas, managing international consortia, and driving disruptive mobility innovations to the market through an in-house factory for technological development, where we accelerate and mature our own ideas or the ideas and projects from our clients. Next, please. Next, please. So what are the objectives of the Ariadne project? So first of all, raise awareness about the technological enhancements of Galileo, but also of Copernicus, which is the European Earth Observation Program, and the expected benefits and market perspectives in public transport and urban mobility of Galileo. The second objective of the Ariadne project is build the capacity of urban mobility stakeholders and decision makers, public transport authorities, public transport operators, supporting their decision making and ability to integrate Galileo in the urban mobility market, in their daily operations, or how to make the most of this available technology in the daily operations. And last but not least, a third objective of this project is to facilitate Galileo deployment by creating concrete business opportunities and strategic excellence partnerships between Galileo and urban mobility or public transport actors in Europe, but also at global level. So next slide, please. Something that not many stakeholders, unfortunately, yet know is that Galileo is a fully deployed, freely available global navigation satellite system that covers the globe. It was initially launched in December 2016, so 5 years now, and it has a number of services. The one being more relevant is the open service, which provides more accurate, robust geolocation services of moving things or people, citizens and users, and so on. Next slide, please. So the GNSS contribution to urban mobility and public transport is very broad. There are many applications in the smart city domain that can benefit from accurate and precise geolocation. Only to mention a few: fleet management, passenger information, in-vehicle signage, floating vehicle data. All of these applications, which are very broad, benefit from, or not benefit, they make use of geolocation, right? And you can perform better and you can reach a lot of savings and efficiencies if this geolocation is more accurately provided, is more precise. And at the end of the day, the kind of efficiencies or added value that Galileo has to offer when combined, and this is very important, it's the combination of Galileo with other GNSS systems. It's not either using GPS, Beidou, GLONASS, or Galileo. It's the combination of all the satellites in view available at any given moment that will provide the best performance overall. And at the end of the day, it will provide, benefits such as much more efficient coordination of public transport fleets, the provision of more accurate and so more useful passenger information. It will lead to, or it will contribute to achieve targets of emission reduction, which is one of the most pressing challenges cities are facing these days to reduce emissions coming from transportation. The reduction of maintenance and infrastructure costs, particularly of public transport, the scheduling and optimization of passenger travel, and providing, as I said, more accurate real-time information on public transport and other shared mobility services available in the cities these days. Next one, please. So thanks to its superior performance in very stringent urban environments with, the urban canoeing effect, and I know that you in Japan have cities with, like Tokyo, for example, but others as well, with very tall buildings, creating this multipath effect or this urban canoeing effect, right? And when it comes to geolocating vehicles or passengers, these very harsh urban environments are a real challenge, right? So in these cases, improved accuracy, the faster positioning fixed of Galileo helps to fulfill this urban mobility, transport, accuracy, and availability requirements. The fact that Galileo is interoperable and compatible, that's very important, with GPS and also with other GNSS, namely the Russian GLONASS and the Chinese Beidou, for example. Galileo, because it is fully compatible and interoperable with these systems, can be seamlessly integrated into any foreseen or current service offering. And last but not least, multi-constellation, multi-frequency, in some cases, Galileo-enabled receivers, so the chipsets, which are to be used, for example, on board buses or trams or cars or bicycles or any moving vehicle. These receivers are today widely available in the market at either no or very marginal extra cost in comparison to GPS-only receivers. So, in other words, it pays off to buy technology that integrates Galileo today because the return of investment really is very cost-effective. Next. So the benefits of multi-constellation and multi-frequency GNSS brought in by Galileo. Let me explain you a little bit more. So when I say multi-constellation, I refer to when buildings, tall buildings particularly, block the signal coming from the satellites and reduce the number of visible satellites. Then the availability of more constellations will ensure a much more accurate final position being determined by the IoT platform embedded on that particular vehicle or, for example, on your own smartphone as a passenger. Multi-frequency increases robustness of the position against mass market jammers or interfering signals, because these interfering signals typically have a very narrow bandwidth, and the receiver, in this case, if it uses multi-frequency, can still calculate a correct position with the other, making use of the other GNSS signals available. More so, it increases resistance to multipath and more accuracy. And last but not least, I refer to the multipath effect. So the strength of the Galileo signal, together with advanced code modulations, makes Galileo better, much better, mitigating multipath effects, especially in the E5 band, but also in E1. And there are independent studies, for example, by Broadcom, which is an independent technological provider, saying that the increase in performance of Galileo in the E1 band is 2 times better than GPS L1 band. Next one. So Arianna targets the following stakeholders. First, public transport authorities and operators worldwide. So I'm now calling to the attendees in this webinar that are public transport authorities or operators at city level, at national level, at regional level. As we've seen so far, Galileo has huge potential to enhance the quality of public transportation by reducing operational costs and increasing efficiency by leveraging the superior features of Galileo, such as more accurate positioning and authenticated services. Something that is unique to Galileo, the fact that you can, through their authenticated service, make sure that the signal actually comes from the Galileo satellites and is not coming from any interfering system trying to fake the signal, right? So this is for applications where authentication is really critical. Cities are one of our major target groups that we are addressing with this project. Galileo can be unlocked to help cities provide better mobility services, giving citizens reliable and robust positioning of the smartphones, of the vehicles, and the goods on which they depend daily. Also, the university world and research centers. Arianna brings together the so-called knowledge triangle, which are universities, research centers, and the industry, plus cities, generating scientific knowledge and dissemination through international journals and sectorial events like this one today, for example. And we have been also publishing some papers at some international conferences, which, by the way, will be made publicly available through our project website. So feel free to reach out to us to download all of the documentation that we will make available to all. Technology providers, of course. Let me cite the USPA, who is funding us. And in one of their reports, they say that the advent of 5G, automated driving, where, needless to say, very accurate geopositioning is critical with automated vehicles, and smart cities is set to spawn a further proliferation and diversification of GNSS-enabled added value services. So there is a bright future for GNSS-enabled applications where Galileo will play a key role for sure. Arianna, in particular, focuses on public transport as an entry point to the wider ITS world. So ITS meaning, of course, ITS meaning intelligent transportation systems. SMEs and startups are also a very important stakeholder group that we are addressing. So Arianna supports them by covering the various cycles of business development, networking with industry players, and liaising with academia and research through, for example, hackathons with Galileo-based approaches targeting challenges facing public transport worldwide. Because something that is very common in any city worldwide is that public transport systems face very similar problems, independently of the country or the continent where they are. And last but not least, the end users or the passengers. So Arianna contributes to increase confidence of end users and boost massive adoption of Galileo-supported applications by the end users, where the precise, accurate, and reliable location services is very much needed. Next, please. Next one. So something that we built at the very beginning of the project and we are very proud of is the Space for Cities Forum, which is a stakeholder group of more than 20 members. I always say that is much more than 20 members. In fact, there are 21, but some of those, like, for example, Smart City Institute Japan, include under their umbrella many more other companies or organizations. So all in all, it is much more than 20 organizations that we are reaching out through the Space for Cities Forum. And to the Space for Cities Forum, we provide a number of services, like, for example, early access to the content that we generate in the project, more tailored advice and guidance. So please reach out to us in case you want to know more what Galileo has to offer. Next one, please. One example is this white paper that today is freely available and that you all can download from the project website, where we have compiled a number of concrete examples from different stakeholders that are today making use of Galileo-enabled systems, and where we summarize the improvement and the KPIs and the benefits of using Galileo under very concrete applications. And this is explained in this white paper. So next one, please. Arianna, as I mentioned earlier, also organizes hackathons, so innovation events. We organized one by the end of November last year, where 11 teams of entrepreneurs, startups, and students from all around the globe took part. It was also coordinated together with Youth for Public Transport, which is a foundation belonging to the UITP. And the objective was to bring in new ideas to address the most pressing challenges facing cities at global level. So the teams were coming from many different countries from all around the globe, South America, from Africa, from Asia. And particularly in this first hackathon, we addressed the need of cities to go greener after the pandemic by making use of the Galileo satellite system. Another example of the kind of innovations that we are driving and facilitating through EU-funded projects is the Moliere project, which is another project funded by the USPA. It's another one, and it's also coordinated by us, by Factual. And in this project, we recently organized a hackathon in March this year, where the challenge was to develop algorithms to process mobility data, where the geolocation information contained in this mobility data was provided by Galileo. And we were asking the teams to assess the level of improvement to some city challenges as regards more accurate positioning. So we were asking them to compare what was the actual level of increased performance, more quantifiable, when using Galileo as compared to when using GPS only, for example. This happened in March this year, and the project is now running, and it will be running for until November next year. So this is the Moliere project. And I want to announce that we are now preparing the second and last edition of the Arianna Hackathon, which will be announced very soon. So in case any of the attendees to this webinar is interested or willing to participate, we will announce the dates and the format, which will be an online format, 100% online format. And we will be announcing the challenges and the prizes very soon. Next one. So please keep in touch through our already well-established Space for Cities forum, where you are members, or reach out spontaneously to us by any of our channels that you see here, our website, email, Twitter. And that's all from my side. Arigato. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm more than happy to take any questions that your audience might have. Thank you so much.
All right, Josep, thank you very much. It was very easy to understand presentation, comprehensive. I found it very informative and helpful. And let's begin the discussion. And I would like to start from very basic, which you just repeat yourself, but there are some buzzwords we keep using: Arianna, Galileo, and GNSS, right? So many of the Japanese audiences are not familiar with those in English or the alphabetical namings. So could you go over those and explain a little bit again?
Yes, exactly. Now, Arianna is an acronym which goes for, it's the short version for awareness raising, increasing adoption of GNSS systems and applications at the urban level.
Mm.
So that's what the project long title is. Galileo is the European global navigation satellite system. So it's the short name for it, and it's the equivalent being managed by the European Union as to the American GPS or the Russian GLONASS or the Chinese Beidou, for example. And all of those are available. And something that I want to stress, because it's important for your audience, all of these satellite systems are available, are there to be used. And what is really clever from our perspective is to combine them, not to use one single constellation system. I mean, if there's more satellites in view available, why not use them to more accurately geolocate your fleets, your users? I mean, let's use it. I mean, the infrastructure is there to be used. It's free to use, it's global. And in the case of Galileo, it offers some differential features, such as, for example, the authentication service, which for some critical applications where making sure that the signal actually comes from the satellite is important, you can make use of Galileo and you will be safe, for example.
I see. So good to know that combining them is good choice. And probably compared to other systems like Beidou system or American GPS, what's the relative strength of Galileo?
Yeah, I mean, Galileo has, as I mentioned, some very differential feature is that it offers an authentication service. So you can make sure, I mean, the receiver embedded into a vehicle, for example, or into a smartphone, can verify that the signal actually comes from the Galileo satellites, and not from any interfering system trying to fake the signal. That's one differential feature. Another differential feature regarding how to work against the multipath effect is that the Galileo signal comes modulated using very advanced code modulations, making it more so making it better to mitigate the multipath effects. So the fact that it operates in different frequency bands, namely E5, but mainly E1 band, makes it overall 2 times better in terms of performance as compared to GPS. And there are independent studies that I can refer to where this is proved from a technical perspective. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it is about providing more robust signal against jamming or against interfering signals, and better performance against the multipath effect. And this is particularly important in cities with, in city centers where there are tall buildings. There is particularly relevant to make use of Galileo. And one last thing, some people might think that, it is eventually expensive or, difficult to integrate multi-constellation receivers. That is not the case, not at all. I mean, it is totally cost effective. So multi-constellation and multi-frequency chipsets are widely available by many providers in the market today. And the cost is in some cases the same or slightly more expensive, but very marginal differences. So it pays off to implement. And one last thing that I want to tell your audience is, because the public procurement processes, particularly in the public transport sector, takes time. So the renewal of fleets and the legacy systems and so on, it takes time. One recommendation from this project is that next time that you need to renew any part of your system managing public transport, do look at the possibility of integrating multi-constellation, multi-frequency chipsets in your fleets. And there is one last recommendation. There is an association of technological providers for the public transport sector, which is under the umbrella of the UITP. This is called IT per Public Transport. And the IT per Public Transport is a global organization embracing and encompassing many technological providers. And one of the things they produce is technological specifications that can be used by public transport authorities or operators when publishing their tenders or their procurement processes to renew their systems. So you can refer, if you want, to those technical specifications being generated by experts. And we are working closely with them from the Ariadne project to update their recommendations and the technical specifications to include Galileo-enabled chipsets in their architectures. So whenever you refer to this technical documentation, please keep in mind that Galileo is there to help and it pays off.
Okay, thank you. So it sounded like the highly densely populated area, like a center of Tokyo, with a high skyscraper and so forth, seems to be most suitable for this system, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, city centers are very challenging parts of the city. I mean, it does happen to you guys in your big cities in Japan, where geolocating a vehicle is critical to the user satisfaction, for example. So imagine, for example, one of these shared vehicles that are available in cities worldwide. For example, free-floating bicycle fleets, shared bicycle fleets that you can use and park anywhere in the city. So not in fixed locations, right? You know, a slight difference of a couple of meters, 3 meters, I don't know, in the actual location of the vehicle as compared to the location that your smartphone, for example, is computing, is guessing kind of, or I mean, if there is a difference between the actual location of the vehicle and the location that in principle you are seeing in your smartphone, for example, then from the user perspective, this might generate frustration because you go there where your bicycle or your moped or your kick scooter is expected to be, the one that you want to use for your trip, and you simply don't find it where it's expected to be because there is this error in the geolocation signal of few meters. Few meters in open sky is no problem. You can correct it because imagine that the geolocation signal for example, in a road or in a highway, if the geolocation signal says that the vehicle is off the road, you can easily infer that this is of course a mistake and correct that signal and locate the vehicle in the middle of the lane of your road. This is in open sky, for example. But when there are tall buildings blocking the signal and generating this multipath effect, it is much more difficult to solve these problems, and this might generate frustration to the end users and lower adoption of these new mobility services that, let me say, are helping cities be more sustainable, more efficient, providing more options for the citizens to go from one point to the other. So something that we do want to avoid after the pandemic is that we are back to using our cars, for example, for commuting door to door. And in order to do that, we need to provide the best combination of public transport and shared mobility services. And all of these services rely on geolocation, right? One more example. when I'm waiting for my bus, public transport bus, and it says that my next bus is coming in 5 minutes, I mean, the way the system determines that my next bus is 5 minutes away is because it is assessing the position of the coming vehicle, right? If this position is not well determined, it might well be the case that it is not actually 5 minutes where my next bus is coming, but rather 7 or 8 minutes, which again might generate confusion or frustration to the user, and which is something that we really want to avoid. We want to make our citizens happy with the mobility services that we offer them, and in order to do that, we need to provide more accurate information so that they know at all times where the next vehicle is, how they can go from A to B in the city, make it easy for them, right? And that's where again Galileo comes in, because the system is there to be used. Why not use it? No, if it's available.
I see. So beyond the use for the transport or mobility, what's the other typical case of the this Galileo? In Japan, people tend to think about satellite information system for the natural disaster prevention or prediction, right? So when you have a heavy rain, particularly when we have the climate changes nowadays, the landslide may occur, or typical landscape is somewhat changing due to the heavy rain, earthquake, or anything like that. So is it possible to use this system for that kind of prevention of the disaster purposes?
It is. There is a service that I referred to very quickly. It was on one of my slides, which is not that useful for urban mobility applications, but it is indeed useful, as you say, for emergency rescue services, where whenever you are in travel, for example, you're lost in the forest, or you are, you don't know exactly where you are, and you need rescue services to find you, there is a service tailored to this particular application offered by Galileo. There is also one satellite, some space technology that I refer to based on satellites as well, being managed by the European Union, called Copernicus. Copernicus is the European Earth Observation Program. It is a different set of satellites that take regular pictures of, and very detailed pictures of the Earth, and are used, for example, to predict natural disasters, as you mentioned, no? So typhoons, or this kind of natural disasters that you can eventually anticipate if you have the right information available. And this is one only of the many applications that, for example, Copernicus has to offer. So to some extent, we are also educating in this project on the benefits of Copernicus. I'm glad that you made this question, because it let me present this other space technology being provided by the European Union, which is also globally available again, and free to use.
Right. And other popular use of data in the context of the Japanese smart city is the digital twin. So creating the digital replica of the city, and tweak a little bit, like massaging, building a Lego blocks or something like that. Can you use the Galileo information in combination with the 3D, replica of the city?
Well, indeed. I mean, if you have accurate geolocation data provided by Galileo, it will only make your digital twins models better to work with, and to use them to anticipate problems or challenges in the city, how to address them. I mean, any model lives on data, right? Lives on accurate data. And again, I'm glad that you make this point, because the other project, which we at Factual are also coordinating, that I referred to at the very end of my presentation, called Molière, which is also funded by the USPA. In that project, we are building a mobility data marketplace where all the geolocation component of the data sets that we are going to upload to this mobility data marketplace will come from Galileo. And this data marketplace, our goal is that it can be used by as many stakeholders as possible in their studies, in their applications. For example, in your digital twins for your cities, you can rely on this data to kind of fine-tune your models and to calibrate your models. And the better and more accurate the data is that you use to calibrate your models, the better. No, I mean, if you have a good model, a good digital twin, but you cannot, use good data to model it, then it's useless. No, at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, Galileo data is there to be leveraged for sure, and I encourage you to follow our activities in this other project as well, of course.
Okay, thank you very much. And somewhere in your presentation, I might have heard wrong, but is it free to use? Is that something you have to pay? I'm not sure about the pricing of this. And when we introduce this kind of the tool, probably academia is quick to respond. Okay, if it's useful, let's use it for research purpose. And by the way, how much do you charge for this? It's the first question I can hear. So what's the pricing of this?
No, I mean, Galileo is freely available. I mean, the satellites are there, and provided that you have the right chipset, you can start using the signals coming from. Yeah, it's there to be used. It's free. It's like GPS. I mean, it's available, it's operational, and it's free to use.
That's the big part. It's free of charge, right?
Yes.
All right. And since this is originated in Europe, most popular use, I think, is in Europe. But outside of Europe, which countries or regions are most active users of this system?
Well, we are trying to figure out. There are some studies published by the USPA in their website where they are, and I encourage you to go and download them, which are available, where they make an analysis of the market, who is making use of this technology worldwide. I can tell you now by I don't remember. I mean, you're right that it is more used in Europe because it is more known here, but increasingly other countries around the world are making use of this technology in their applications. And something that I can definitely do after this webinar is share with you a couple of reports produced by the USPA, where you see, a complete market analysis where Galileo is actually being implemented. There are some examples that I did mention that are better explained in our white paper, which is also available in our website. But in terms of, out of Europe, this is slowly getting traction. And again, one of my main goals today with this webinar is to educate your audience, and hopefully in the near future, when you procure new public transport systems in Japan, for example, you look at the possibility of making use of Galileo. So we will see in the future. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and what's the next question I had? And our audience might be now interested in the Galileo and Ariana. So what's the best way to get more information, and what's the right contact? You just showed the last slide of your presentation. It's a list of the contact, but should they send an email to you, or just check the email, website or somewhere?
There's a number of ways you can be in touch with us. Any of these are more than useful. You can reach out to us through our website, through email, through Twitter. You can still join our Space for Cities forum. I guess that it is likely that the Space for Cities forum will somehow continue after the project ends in one way or another. So if you want to keep updated, to be kept updated on the, what Galileo has to offer and where it's being implemented and so on, what I encourage you is to get enrolled with our Space for Cities forum. And last but not least, we have a newsletter so that you can subscribe to through our webpage. Or reach out to me anytime. I'm more than happy to support you. It is our goal in this project. So if any question or idea for a new project arises from your audience, we're here to help.
Thank you very much. That's useful. And let's look at the comments from the audience. We got a couple of them. And first one was from Isaji-san. What difference with Japan Michibiki quasi-Zenith satellite system? What's the difference with the Japanese Michibiki quasi-Zenith satellite system?
Well, I really don't know, but what I tell you is, Galileo is one more satellite system there available, meaning that if your chipset that you embed in your fleet of vehicles is capable of using, you definitely need to look into the technical specifications, right? Just in case, no? But if you look at the technical specifications and you see that it's compatible with GPS, at the end of the day, it's having more satellites available. So if your chipset is able to make the most of the signals coming from all these different satellites, including eventually the one that this person raising the question pointed out, then the better. It is a matter of the compatibility with the receiver. So you rather look into, and you will be surprised. Something that I tell you, you will be surprised to realize that eventually you didn't know that you were buying already Galileo capable technology, because you simply didn't know that chipset was actually processing not only GPS or this system that you refer to, but also Galileo. Because as I said earlier, this hardware is massively available in the market today at no extra cost. And it is being provided by many tech providers. So I encourage you to look into the details, technical specifications, and in case you don't find Galileo, I encourage you to find or look for alternative tech providers and make a comparison. So see whether or not there is a difference in price, and in case there is no difference in price, then buy the one including Galileo. Why not? It pays off. At the end of the day, you will have better performance, you will have more robust signal, so you will have better operations.
I see. So chances are that we are already using Galileo while we don't know we're using it.
Exactly.
Exactly. I see. Okay.
Exactly. So and again, this is also to answer your early question on which other countries outside Europe are today using Galileo. The thing is that I bet that many public transport operators are already buying technology to renew their fleets or their systems without actually knowing that much that they are buying Galileo compatible equipment. And it is important to be aware of this when you buy technology, because for example, you might realize that some of the challenges or some of the problems that you were not able to solve before, like the examples that I mentioned regarding accuracy or accurately calculating when your next bus is approaching or something, you might start being able to solve or address more efficiently just by buying a state-of-the-art technology, including Galileo-enabled chipsets. So I bet that more than we could expect, stakeholders are already using Galileo more and more.
I see. Yeah, that. So we are expecting the drones are going to massively use in short time. So likelihood is that people don't know that it's a Galileo compatible, but everyone is using Galileo compatible drone system, right?
And also one more example, with drones is very clear, and with this kind of disruptive state-of-the-art mobility services, or urban air mobility, for example, is on the rise. So it is coming sooner or later to our cities, as well as autonomous driving, for example.
I see.
And with these services where geopositioning is super critical, I mean, you cannot afford to have a mistake in determining the position in a self-driving vehicle, because it could be critical in terms of safety. And the same goes with drones, as you mentioned. I mean, you need to know very precisely, centimeter level, where that particular vehicle is at all times, because they are unmanned vehicles, with no driver, and that again is one very disruptive mobility application where you definitely need to rely on as many GNSS systems as possible, including Galileo. But again, it is the best combination of all the available systems. It's not either Galileo or GPS or Beidou. It's the best combination of all the available systems, what makes your future applications more robust, more resilient, and safer.
Sounds like by combining the different system and make it multiple setting in one equipment, we can be more resilient to cyber attack, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's important, because with some applications, interfering signals are not that critical, that's admitted, but with some other applications, it is absolutely critical to have a robust signal that you cannot fake, in terms of safety, but also in terms of, there are liability critical applications where imagine that you might be fined for not fulfilling the regulations, for example, in terms of speed limit, or in terms of entering a restricted area in a city.
I see.
Or for example, in terms of, that's also a very interesting application in terms of restricted areas in the city where you are not allowed to go beyond speed limit with your vehicle, for example. Increasingly, cities, also in Japan, tend to define geofencing areas where, for example, when you ride a kick scooter, you are not allowed to ride it above a given speed limit. You can restrict this remotely, the speed limit that the vehicle is allowed to be used when it's entering a restricted area, so a geofence area. Imagine that this geofenced area is not accurately defined, so that when you realize that the user actually entered that area where, for example, there is a school, and there is a danger that you might run into children, for example, and that is dangerous. Imagine that you detect not accurately enough that you entered this geofencing area because the geolocation signal is not accurate. You might have road safety issues there. And again, that's one more application where it pays off to use, Galileo.
I see. I think we got a related question from Fuji-san. Is Ariana starting service to data for shared mobility such as free floating scooter and kick scooters.
Indeed, indeed. Something that eventually perhaps I did not mention clearly enough is that this project is addressing public transport actors mainly, but not only public transport, but also other shared mobility services available in the city, like the ones mentioned by this person raising the question. So yes, it is also in the scope of the Ariadne project to provide advice to shared mobility services operators that are interested to implement more robust and frictionless mobility services under mobility as a service configuration. So mobility as a service is one more hot topic that I know also you in Japan are very keen of. I know that many stakeholders in your country are looking at the challenges and the potential of mobility as a service. And when you look at mobility as a service, ideally, it is the best combination and the seamless combination of public transport as the main backbone of urban mobility in cities, combined with shared mobility. So, I mean, public transport only cannot be called MaaS, right? It is public transport combined with shared mobility. And when you combine different mobility services in multimodal trips, where you take public transport and then you take a shared bike or a shared scooter or you name it, you definitely need to rely on accurate geolocation again. It is a matter of meeting the expectations in terms of quality of the service from the user perspective. So you always know where your own car is parked, right? It is in your garage. And you know that you can rely on it because it's always there waiting for you to be, to take you from A to B. And that's a level of convenience that is being challenged by mobility as a service as an alternative, right? If you want to be as competitive and convenient as the private car is today, when it comes to your personal mobility, you need to address a number of challenges. And one is knowing at all times where you as a user are respect to the modes of transport that you want to use. So how far you are from your next bus, or where exactly your shared kick scooter is parked in that given corner. If it's in that given corner, you definitely need to go there and find it and unlock it and use it. If when you reach that location, you don't find it because it's 3 meters away, but these 3 meters away you have a building in front of you. It will not be on your side. You will simply not find it. And if you don't find it, you will get frustrated. And the next day you might think of not using MaaS because you got frustrated because no, it didn't work for you. So if you use accurate geolocation, it is one way to overcome all of these frustrations of end users.
I see. Okay. And one question from Oki-san. Will there be a cloud service that carries all the platform and recommend a combination of them for your specific services?
Well, the Ariadne project, just as a clarification, it is what we call a coordination and support action, meaning that we are not developing technology in this project. So we are only providing a technical advice. In fact, this is the technical advice question. I believe, whether or not there will be such a platform. I know of many platforms out there that offer mobility as a service. What is not that widespread yet, and I think there's an opportunity here, is making sure that more and more the mobility services that you include under these MaaS offerings are of fleets that make use of multi-constellation chipsets. That is something important. So whenever you think of offering an integrated mobility service, something that we advise is make sure, or look at whether or not the mobility services that you are including under this package or this mobility offering, multimodal one, is making use as much as possible of multi-constellation receivers, that in the end provide better geolocation of the vehicles and of the end users. So I'm sure that there are many platforms out there that are offering this kind of services. My recommendation is make sure that whenever possible, you recommend or you implement or you offer your customers fleets of vehicles that make use of multi-constellation, because at the end of the day, it will provide more satisfaction and more user acceptance to your users, and yeah, it will make your lives easier.
Okay, thank you. Joseph, this is going to be the last question for you, actually from Kudo-san. Thank you for your great presentation. Galileo could be used in many ways, like prevention or detection of crime in the city or rural areas. Do you use Galileo for this purpose in Europe?
And that's a good question. I guess so, but I should investigate a little bit more whether or not this very specific application is being actually used. I mean, I tend to think that I would not be surprised if that would be the case, but to be honest, the applications that we have early identified and described in our white paper are not those that are, to face crimes and so on. But I guess so. I tend to think that it might be the case, but I cannot give you a concrete answer to this. I should investigate a little bit more, but I can do that afterwards.
Joseph, it looks like a good question for hackathon.
Exactly. That's an idea indeed, because hackathons are thank you for that, because they are a good platform for raising sometimes crazy challenges, to innovators that have a bright angle to how to address different challenges, different problems, right? So I take it as an advice, a recommendation for our next hackathon. If we can find out, or we can challenge the participant teams to think of innovative ideas to address crime, making use of more accurate geolocation, why not? I mean, one way you can definitely address crime is by prosecuting those that try to fake signals and make a benefit from it. I did mention that earlier. I mean, you might. That's indeed an application that it is being implemented in Europe, but I guess also in other places of the world as well. If your application where you use geolocation has some payment system behind. So, for example, if you are paying for making use of a road, so it's road charging applications making use of GNSS, where you don't have tolls, you don't have physical tolls, and the number of kilometers driven by you is determined by the satellites, right? You might fake the system so that at the end of the day, if you have traveled 50 kilometers, it says that you have traveled actually 5 or 10, so that you are charged less money, right, for using this infrastructure. This is, I mean, if you ask me, this is crime. This is illegal. So if by using authenticated signal from Galileo, you can fight this crime, these illegal actions, then you have a very concrete example how particularly Galileo can be used for this kind of applications, which, by the way, this authentication service is not being offered by all the GNSS systems available. So that's a very concrete example. So yeah, and besides that, I'm going to raise the challenge as well to the innovators in our next hackathon.
All right, thank you very much. Oh, Joseph, so we cleared all the questions, and thank you for your, detailed presentation and all the answers you provided. It was so useful, and I got a more clear understanding of what the Galileo would look like. Thank you very much. You might want to say something as a final word to the Japanese audience.
Yes. I mean, I'm very thankful for you having me today in your webinar. It has been a very inspiring session. I mean, I know that you reach out to a very wide audience. So I'm very happy to have been offered this opportunity to talk to your audience in that particular part of the world where I think, or I guess, that you might not be that well aware of what Galileo has to offer. So if I have managed to educate some of your audience on the benefits of Galileo, so that in the future you make use of it, I will have fulfilled by far my expectations. So again, thank you for having me. It has been a refreshing exchange of ideas and dialogue with you and with your audience. And yeah, arigato.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to have you with me. Thank you very much, Joseph. Okay, this concludes our webinar, and let's move on to Kudo-san's final updates.
So before I move in, okay. So first of all, Josep, gracias. Thank you very much for your, inspiring presentation, and we look forward to the hackathon that you mentioned. And before we finish, I'd like to go over our program from the Smart City Institute webinar. And thank you for viewing today. And after this webinar, you will receive a questionnaire after the event. So we would appreciate if you could answer. And the programs of the webinar will be available on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn of Smart City Institute Japan. And they are also posted on Smart City Institute Japan's website and the PTX. And videos, including today, can be viewed on Smart City Japan YouTube channel. And the programs upcoming today, we had this from Joseph, new public transport era leveraging Galileo. Today we learned a lot. And tomorrow we have a smart city, introduction from Korea, WeGo. And Ms. Elena Cho will be presenting. And also in the middle of August, we will have smart cities and digital government in Estonia. So August 12th, watch out. And also towards the end of this month, August 23, we have future cities and smart, urban governance from Romania as well. So stay tuned. And about Smart City Institute Japan, we were established back in 2 years ago, and a number of membership is growing still. And we have now 440, including, full member 81, and also supporting member 350. And also we are increasing the number of global partner organizations as well, including today's Factual-Consulting from, Joseph. So thank you very much for today, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye now.
Bye-bye.